All right, so today we're going to dive into something pretty interesting and I think really important.
Okay.
It's about how we measure growth and impact, and specifically in the context of something like church planting.
Right.
And we've got this document titled A Living Record of Progress, which really kind of challenges us to look beyond just simple numbers
Yeah,
when assessing, how a movement like this is actually doing.
absolutely.
So, what's the big idea here?
Well, the big idea is that just counting the number of new churches planted doesn't really give you the full picture.
Right.
It's kind of like, just looking at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot going on beneath the surface.
Exactly. Yeah, you can have a bunch of new churches popping up,
Fair.
but if they're not thriving,
Yeah.
if they're not really making a difference in their communities,
Yeah, if they're not growing spiritually.
right.
If they're not engaging with the needs around them, then what's the point?
Yeah, then are we really seeing the kind of impact we're hoping for? So this document, it talks about the need for something called a living database.
Yeah.
Which sounds a lot more dynamic than just a simple list of churches.
Oh, it definitely is.
Right.
It's described as the heartbeat of a movement.
Wow, okay.
So it's not just a static repository of information.
Right.
It's this constantly evolving system
Yeah.
that's designed to help leaders make informed decisions,
Gotcha.
based on real-time data.
So data-driven decisions.
Yeah, and it's also about fostering collaboration
Yeah.
and making sure that no community is left behind.
Okay, so this idea of no community left behind.
Yeah.
The document specifically uses the term barangay a few times.
Right.
Can you just clarify what that means in this context?
Sure. So barangay is basically the smallest administrative division in the Philippines.
Okay.
Kind of like a village or a neighborhood.
Got it.
So when they talk about reaching every barangay,
Yeah.
they're talking about reaching every single community, even the most remote ones.
Okay. So really getting down to that grassroots
Yeah.
level. All right, so this living database,
Yeah.
it's supposed to provide what they call actionable intelligence,
Right.
as opposed to just like anecdotal reports or, isolated stories.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Like, how do you actually get from data to action?
Yeah, what does that look like in the real world?
Well, in the past, a lot of churches and mission organizations, they were kind of working in silos.
Right.
They might not have had a clear picture of what other groups were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have a situation where multiple churches are focusing their efforts on the same area,
Right.
while other areas are being completely neglected.
Okay.
So a well-functioning database breaks down those silos
Yeah.
and gives everyone a shared understanding of what's happening where.
So it's like a central hub of information
Yeah.
that allows for more strategic coordination.
Exactly, and that's what makes it actionable.
Right. So you're not just reacting to what you happen to see or hear.
Yeah,
You're actually able to look at the big picture.
exactly.
You make informed decisions about where to focus your efforts.
Right, and the key is that it's living,
Yeah, the document keeps emphasizing that word.
Right, it's not a one-time snapshot.
Okay.
It's constantly being updated
Gotcha.
to reflect the changes that are happening on the ground.
So it's dynamic.
Very dynamic,
Okay.
which allows for ongoing strategy and adaptation.
All right. So moving beyond just counting churches in each barangay,
Yeah.
what kind of information should this database be tracking to
Right.
really give us a more insightful understanding of the movement's health and impact?
Well, the document highlights several key indicators.
Okay, let's hear them.
First one is attendance trends.
Okay,
So is the church growing? Is it staying the same, or is attendance declining?
gotcha. So that tells you a lot more than just whether a church exists or not.
Exactly. A church with declining attendance might need some extra support.
Yeah, or maybe a change in approach.
Right.
Okay, what's the next indicator?
The next one is discipleship development.
Okay, so beyond just showing up on Sunday,
Right. It's about whether new believers are being mentored.
yeah,
Are they growing in their faith?
right.
Are they becoming more like Christ?
Because ultimately that's the goal, right?
Exactly. It's about making disciples.
Yeah, not just filling seats.
Exactly.
Okay, but
Another key indicator is leadership growth.
okay.
So are local leaders being developed?
Hmm.
Are they being equipped to lead their churches effectively?
Right, because you want the movement to be self-sustaining.
Exactly. You don't want it to be dependent on outside support forever.
Right, you want to empower local leaders
Okay.
to take ownership.
Absolutely.
Okay, and the last indicator.
The last one is community engagement.
Okay.
So is the church actively involved in serving its community?
Mm-hmm.
Are they making a tangible difference in the lives of people around them?
So it's not just about inward
But
focus.
no, it's about being a blessing to the community.
Right, being salt and light.
Exactly.
Okay, so these 4 areas, attendance trends, discipleship development, leadership growth, and community engagement,
Right.
they paint a much richer picture
Yeah.
than just knowing whether a church exists in a particular barangay,
Exactly. It's about looking at the quality and the depth of the impact.
not just the quantity.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk more about this living aspect of the database.
Sure.
The document specifically mentions the Philippine Church Update Database as an example.
Yes.
So what makes this database living?
Well, it's constantly being updated with information coming directly from the front lines,
Okay.
from the church planters and the local leaders themselves.
So it's a real-time feedback loop.
Exactly.
What kind of updates are they providing?
Well, they're reporting on new church plants,
Okay.
new outreach initiatives,
Mm-hmm.
leadership transitions,
Mm-hmm.
when a new pastor takes over.
Right.
They're also sharing about the challenges they're facing,
Okay.
like persecution, economic hardship, geographical barriers,
Right.
and they're also sharing their successes. Their best practices, stories of lives being changed.
So it's a very holistic view
It is.
of what's happening on the ground.
Yeah, it gives you a real sense of the pulse of the movement.
Now, the document states that this real-time feedback loop allows for strategic adjustments.
Right.
How so?
Well, by having this up-to-date information,
Yeah.
leaders can identify emerging needs,
Okay.
potential crisis points,
Mm-hmm.
and they can adjust their strategies accordingly.
So they can be proactive
Exactly.
instead of reactive.
Right. They can pivot, reallocate resources,
Wow.
and really fine-tune their approach based on what's actually happening.
Okay, so it's about being nimble and responsive.
Absolutely.
The document also emphasizes online accessibility and collaboration.
Yes.
Why is that so important?
Well, reaching every single barangay in the Philippines.
Yeah.
It's a massive undertaking.
Right.
No single church or organization can do it alone.
Okay.
So a cloud-based database
Yeah.
becomes this incredible tool for collaboration. It allows churches, denominations, mission agencies to all work together.
So it's breaking down those silos again
Exactly.
and creating a sense of shared mission?
Right. It also prevents duplication of efforts.
Okay.
So you don't have multiple groups
Yeah.
focusing on the same area while other areas are being neglected.
So it helps to ensure that resources are being used effectively
Exactly.
and strategically.
Absolutely.
So it's about moving from isolation to collaboration.
Right. And that can have a huge impact.
Now, amidst all this talk about data and databases,
Yeah.
the document reminds us that the ultimate goal is discipleship and transformation,
Absolutely.
not just numbers on a screen.
It's about people's lives being changed.
Right. So how does this database help bridge that gap?
Well, it provides clarity,
Okay.
precision, and purpose to mission efforts.
Gotcha.
It helps ensure that resources are being used
Yeah.
in a way that will actually lead to people coming to know Christ.
So the data is a tool,
It is.
a very valuable tool.
Yeah.
But it's not the end in itself.
Exactly.
The document also cautions that technology must always serve the mission, not replace it.
Right. We can't become so focused on the data
Yeah,
that we lose sight of the people.
exactly.
It emphasizes the importance of prayerful discernment,
Okay.
personal relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and contextual understanding. Let's break
Yeah.
those down a bit. What do they mean in this context?
Well, prayerful discernment means seeking God's guidance
Okay.
in how we use the data.
Right. So the data informs us,
Yeah,
but we still need to pray
absolutely.
and seek God's wisdom
Absolutely.
in making decisions.
Right.
Personal relationships reminds us that this is about people,
Yeah.
not just numbers.
It's about connecting with people,
Yeah.
building relationships,
Mhm.
understanding their needs, right? And contextual understanding means recognizing that every community is different.
Okay.
What works in one place may not work in another.
Gotcha. So we need to be sensitive to the local context.
Exactly.
So it's really about integrating data
Yeah.
with human wisdom, spiritual discernment, and local leadership
Absolutely.
to create a movement that's both effective and spirit-led.
Right.
And the document concludes by talking about the vision of a gospel-centered church
Yes.
in every barangay in the Philippines.
A church in every community.
And it acknowledges that this is a huge vision,
Is.
but it also emphasizes that it's achievable.
Absolutely. With God, all things are possible.
Right. And this living database,
Yeah.
it's a key part of making that vision a reality.
It helps to prevent wasted effort.
Mm.
It ensures that no community is overlooked,
Right.
and it provides the necessary support for church planters.
So it's about maximizing the impact
Exactly.
of the resources and the passion that exists
Absolutely.
for spreading the gospel.
And it's about keeping momentum.
Right.
Making sure that the movement is constantly evolving
Yeah.
and adapting to the changing needs.
So to wrap it all up,
Yeah.
this deep dive into a living record of progress.
It's really challenged us to think differently
It has.
about how we measure the success of a movement. It's not just about counting churches.
No.
It's about looking at the deeper impact.
Like the quality of the discipleship, the strength of the leadership,
Right.
the engagement with the community.
And it's about having a dynamic system
Yes.
that allows us to track progress, make informed decisions,
Right.
and adapt to the changing needs on the ground.
And it's about collaboration,
Yeah.
working together towards a common goal.
So it's a really powerful and inspiring vision.
It is.
And it makes you think about how data can be used.
Yeah.
Not just in church planting,
Right.
but in any movement
In any area of life.
that's trying to make a difference in the world.
Absolutely.
So it's a challenge to all of us to look beyond the numbers and to think about what truly matters.
What are the metrics that really matter
Exactly.
in the things that we care about?
Yeah, what are the beyond the numbers metrics?
Right. That indicate real progress.
Yeah,
It's a question worth pondering.
absolutely.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive today.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been great having you.